From the sidewalk, my parents' backyard looked like the picture on a party store flyer. White folding chairs. String lights zigzagged over the lawn. A couple of those cheap ticky torches flickering near the fence. People in summer clothes laughing over paper plates. Someone had even dragged the big speaker out so soft music floated over the smell of burgers and lighter fluid. If you didn't know us, you would have thought this was a proud family celebrating their daughter's graduation. I stepped through the side gate, clutching the little gift bag I'd brought for my nephew out of habit. No one turned right away. Eventually, my mother did. "Jenna," she said, crossing the grass with her arms open, smile a little too bright. "There you are. We were wondering when you'd show up." I checked my watch. I was 10 minutes early. "Hey, Mom," I said, letting her air kiss my cheek. She was in full hostess mode, hair curled, makeup on, dress pressed. Her voice dropped just enough so only I could hear. "Try not to look tired," she murmured, smoothing a wrinkle at my shoulder. "People are taking pictures. Not I'm proud of you. Not you did it. Just keeping up appearances." "Chloe," Mom called, raising her voice again. "Look who finally made it." My sister turned from the picnic table like she'd just been announced at an awards show. Chloe's sundress was new, her nails freshly done. She had a drink in one hand and her phone in the other. Tyler, her 10-year-old son, sat next to her, stuffing chips into his mouth like nobody had ever told him no. "Hey," Chloe said, giving me a quick once-over. "Congrats, I guess. You're a real college girl now." "Thanks," I replied, the words sounding small even to me. Someone asked Chloe about the California trip she'd just taken, and the conversation swung away from me like a door closing. "Oh, it was amazing," she said loudly. "Mom insisted we stay an extra week, beach house, ocean view, the whole thing." "Of course I did," Mom laughed, patting Chloe's shoulder. "They needed a break. They've been under so much stress." I stood there, the first person in our family to finish a degree, listening to people praise the vacation my mother paid for while she'd told me she couldn't possibly afford to fly out for my graduation ceremony. No one asked about my classes. No one asked about the late nights after work. No one asked how it felt to walk across that stage. Behind everyone, on a small plastic table near the sliding door, sat my cake. White frosting. Dark blue letters. "Congrats, Jenna," written just a tiny bit crooked. It wasn't center stage. It had been shoved off to the edge, half covered by a stack of napkins and a bowl of chips. Condensation from a pitcher of lemonade was already seeping into the cardboard base. I stared at it longer than I meant to. It looked out of place, like it had wandered into the wrong party. Mom pressed a flimsy plastic knife into my hand. "You can cut it later," she said. "Right now, just mingle. People want to see you." No one seemed to. I moved through clusters of relatives, answering the same shallow questions. "So you're done with school now? What was it again, something with computers? Seattle must be fun. Expensive, though." Every time I tried to turn the conversation toward the work I'd put in, it slipped away. Someone would ask Chloe about Tyler's soccer team, or Mom would slide in with another story about how hard it was keeping everything going at home. The sun dipped lower. The lights over the yard began to glow. Someone lowered the music so people could hear each other complain about property taxes and gas prices. I kept glancing at the cake. Finally, Mom clapped her hands. "Okay, let's do dessert before everyone leaves," she said. "Jenna, honey, come over here and make a wish or whatever." I walked to the table. Tyler got there first. He hopped onto the bench, grinning at the cake like it was a target. Blue candle flames flickered in front of me, hot wax dripping into the frosting. "Aunt Jenna," he shouted, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Mom says you only went to college so you can brag about being smarter than us." The conversation died mid-sentence at 2 different tables. Heads turned, air tightened. Then somebody laughed, then another. Chloe covered her mouth with her cup, shoulders shaking. Mom didn't correct him. Dad stayed where he was near the grill, eyes glued to his phone like always. Heat climbed up my neck. My fingers tightened around the knife. I told myself the same thing I'd been telling myself since I was old enough to understand sarcasm. Don't react. Don't make a scene. They're just joking. Tyler leaned closer to the cake, eyes sparkling with the kind of cruelty kids learn, not invent. "Besides," he added, Grandma says you think you're such a hero 'cause you help with money." This time, Mom's gaze snapped to mine, quick and sharp, before she laughed it off. "Oh, Tyler, stop repeating grown-up talk," she said, but there was no apology in her eyes. The knife shook slightly in my hand. Nobody stood up for me. Nobody told him to apologize. Nobody said, "That's enough." Then Tyler did it. He slammed his palm into the side of the cake board with more force than I thought a 10-year-old could have. The whole thing slid off the table, hit the concrete, and burst into frosting and crumbs. Candles rolled under people's shoes. A streak of blue icing splashed across my shoes and jeans. There was a heartbeat of silence. Then the whole yard erupted. "Tyler!" someone howled with laughter. "You maniac." "Oh my God, look at her face," another voice snickered. Mom laughed the loudest. "Oh, Jenna, don't be so uptight," she called over the noise. "It's just a cake. You're too sensitive." I stared at the mess on the ground, my name smeared into nothing. My hands went cold. Very carefully, I set the knife down. I untied the cheap apron Mom had tossed at me earlier to help with serving and folded it once. Then I turned and walked straight through the yard, past the tables, past Chloe's raised eyebrows, past Mom's rolling eyes. Nobody tried to stop me. Nobody asked where I was going. The screen door snapped shut behind me. Their laughter faded as I crossed the front lawn and slid behind the wheel of my car. I drove the entire way back to Seattle in silence. No music, no radio, just the sound of tires on highway and my heart beating slower than it should have. It was almost midnight when I finally stepped into my apartment. The quiet felt heavy, but it didn't scare me. I set my keys down, took off my shoes, and sank onto the couch. My phone buzzed. One new message from Mom. "We've decided it's best if we cut off contact for now. Stay away from this family." A few seconds later, a little liked reaction appeared underneath from Chloe. I stared at the screen, feeling nothing. No panic, no grief. Just a hollow space where something used to be. Then I opened a new message window and started typing a single line. I didn't know it yet, but those few words were about to flip their entire world upside down. The message I typed back was short. Clean. Final. I'll be removing myself from every loan tomorrow. No apology, no explanation, no softening. I hit send. The delivery bubble appeared a second later. Then I placed my phone face down on the coffee table and let the silence stretch across the room. It wasn't the sharp, suffocating silence I used to feel when I disappointed them. This was different, like walking into an empty house after moving out, realizing the echo doesn't belong to you anymore. For the first time, silence felt like space. I didn't sleep much that night, not from stress, more from clarity. My mind kept running through every moment I'd said yes to things that shredded my peace. Every time I'd stepped in to keep their lights on or keep Chloe's car from being repossessed. Every time Mom had called me responsible like it was a chain instead of praise. By sunrise, exhaustion gave way to something steadier. Decision. By 9 a.m., my phone had turned into a wildfire. 36 missed calls. Multiple messages from Mom, Chloe, and 2 numbers I didn't recognize. A flurry of frantic texts in our family group chat. "Mom, you're confused. Call me now." "Chloe, what the hell is wrong with you?" "Dad, you need to fix this immediately." "Unknown, answer your mother. This isn't funny." Not a single one said, "What happened?" Or "We're sorry about last night." Or even, "Are you okay?" I didn't respond. Instead, I pulled on a simple gray sweater, tied my hair back, grabbed my bag, and stepped outside into drizzle-soaked Seattle air. The sidewalks were wet and shining, the sky a soft slate gray. Everything felt muted, calm, like the world knew I needed this quiet to walk forward. Green First Bank sat on a corner downtown, all glass windows and brushed steel. Inside, the lobby hummed with low conversation and the smell of brewed coffee. A woman at the desk asked if I had an appointment. "Yes," I said, "with Evan Lawson." She nodded and led me through the glass partitions to a small office at the end of the hall. Evan stood when I walked in. He was in his early 40s, with calm eyes and the kind of posture that made you feel like nothing you said would surprise him. "Jenna," he said gently, shaking my hand. "I reviewed what you emailed. Sit down. Let's talk through this." I sat, clutching the folder I had prepared last night. I co-signed 2 loans, I began. My parents' mortgage and my sister's SUV. I've been making the payments alone. I want to be removed. He nodded slowly, like he'd heard this story many times from many different families. You're not the first, he said softly. People are often pressured into co-signing because they're the responsible one. But you're not locked in forever. He slid a stack of forms toward me. We can start the co-signer release process immediately, he said. But I'll need proof you don't benefit from the property or vehicle. I opened my folder, lease documents from my Seattle apartment, screenshots of transfers, receipts, pay stubs, and an old message from Mom saying, "The house is ours. You're just helping us sign." Evan read everything carefully, not rushed, not dismissive, not skeptical. "This is plenty," he finally said. "You've been treated like a lender, not a daughter. We can separate you completely." He picked up his phone and called legal. "Requesting co-borrower release on both accounts effective today," he said. "Client has furnished full independent residency and financial documentation." His voice was steady and firm. Trained, confident. The opposite of the emotional chaos I had grown up with. When the papers were ready, he set them in front of me. My hand trembled slightly as I signed, each signature slicing through another tie I'd spent years pretending didn't hurt. The final stamp echoed softly in the quiet room, but the sound rippled through me like a small earthquake. Evan looked up. "You've done the right thing," he said. "When you protect yourself, you teach other people to respect you, even if they don't like it." Outside, the drizzle had eased into a mist. The air felt sharp and new. I stopped at a cafe, ordered a cappuccino, and carried it to a window seat. When the barista handed it over, she smiled. "Have a good day." I met her eyes and said the first honest words I'd spoken in months. "I will." Back home, I set down my bag and checked my phone. The family group chat was exploding. "Mom, do you know what you've done? Chloe, my accounts are frozen. Fix it. Dad, you're tearing this family apart. Mom, answer us right now. Unknown, you've gone too far. No apologies, no accountability, just panic at losing access to me." I typed one calm message into the chat. "I'm not paying for any of you anymore." Then I pressed send, set the phone down, and stood completely still. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was freedom arriving. The next 48 hours revealed a truth I had spent years avoiding. The moment you stop carrying people who expect you to hold their entire world together, they don't stumble, they rage. By Sunday afternoon, the calls became relentless. By evening, they turned aggressive. And by night, they crossed a line I couldn't ignore. It started with a pounding at my apartment door. Not polite knocking, not hesitation. A furious, open-palmed assault that rattled the frame. I froze in the hallway, pasta boiling on the stove, my heart thudding once like a warning. I already knew who it was before I checked the security camera feed. The screen lit up with 2 faces I knew too well. My mother, my sister, both standing in the dim hallway of my Seattle apartment building, rain in their hair, fury in their eyes. Mom's voice came through the speaker, cracking with panic and anger. "Jenna, open this door right now." Behind her, Chloe's breathing bordered on frantic. "You ruined everything. My accounts are frozen. My car payment bounced. You have no idea what you've done." I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just watched them through the camera lens. Mom stepped closer, gripping the doorknob with white knuckles. "You are acting insane," she snapped. "We raised you. We supported you. You don't get to turn your back on us." Supported me. The words almost made me laugh. Behind her, Chloe slammed a fist against the door. "You ungrateful brat. Do you want Mom to have a breakdown? Is that what you want?" The hallway lights flickered, casting long shadows across their faces. Neighbors peeked out from cracked doors, then retreated quickly. My building was quiet and polite. This scene didn't belong here. I stepped back, inhaled slowly, then unlocked my phone and tapped the emergency shortcut I'd set up weeks ago. A direct line to Seattle Police Dispatch. 911, what's your emergency? "My mother and sister are outside my apartment," I said calmly. "They're yelling, hitting the door, and refusing to leave. I want to report trespassing." "Do you know them personally?" "Yes," I said, "but today they are not acting like family. They're acting like intruders." Outside, the pounding grew louder. Chloe's hand slammed against the door again. Mom's voice sharpened with desperation. "You're destroying this family. Open this door." I pressed the intercom button, letting my voice carry through the hallway. "You told me to stay away," I said evenly. "I'm respecting your wishes." Mom whipped around, eyes searching for the camera. "Don't twist this. We need to talk." "No," I replied. "You need access. That's not the same thing." 10 minutes later, red and blue lights reflected off the hallway walls. 2 officers approached, one male, one female, calm and composed, the kind of presence that settles the air. Mom rushed toward them. "Oh, thank God," she cried dramatically. "My daughter is having some sort of breakdown. She's ruined our finances and won't open the door." The female officer held up a hand. "Ma'am, yelling in a private residence hallway is not permitted. If she's asked you to leave, you need to leave." "She's my child," Mom shouted. The male officer shook his head. "She's an adult. You don't have the right to be here if she doesn't want contact." Chloe's voice cracked. "She ruined my life. My fiancé is furious. This is her fault." The officer's tone didn't waver. "That sounds like a private financial dispute, not grounds for harassment." I spoke through the intercom again, steady as stone. "I don't feel safe opening the door." Both officers nodded. The male officer pointed toward the exit. "Ma'am, miss, you need to leave the premises." Now, Mom glared at the camera one last time. "You'll regret this, Jenna," she hissed. "Blood doesn't disappear." But her voice shook. And for the first time, I saw something behind her anger. Fear. Not of losing me, but of losing what I provided. They left under the watch of 2 officers. Their footsteps echoed down the stairwell. When silence finally returned, it felt like a room being aired out after years of being sealed shut. I slid to the floor, my back against the door, the adrenaline draining from my body. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from release. After a moment, I reached for my phone and saved the video feed recording into a folder labeled Evidence, April 20. Not out of spite, not for revenge, for protection, for truth. That night, as Seattle rain whispered against the windows, I realized something that should have been obvious years ago. People who rely on your silence will always call your boundaries an attack. And for once, I wasn't silent. The next morning, my apartment felt unnervingly calm, too calm for what had happened the night before. I brewed coffee, wrapped my hands around the warm mug, and stared out at the gray Seattle skyline. The city looked washed clean, but inside me, something still hummed, like a wire stretched too tight. My phone sat face down on the counter. I wasn't ready to flip it over. Not yet. Eventually, I forced myself. The screen lit up instantly, notifications stacked so high they looked like a warning sign. Missed calls, voicemails, blocked number attempts. And then something new. Maya, Jenna, check Facebook. I'm so sorry. A cold knot formed in my stomach. I opened the app cautiously, knowing exactly whose name I would see at the top of my feed. Corinne Brooks. My mother's profile picture, a photo of her smiling sweetly in church, sat above a long post written in dramatic paragraphs, each line heavier than the last. Sometimes the child you pour your life into ends up betraying you the most. My daughter Jenna stole from us, destroyed our credit, and is now lying to the police to cover it up. We are heartbroken. Please keep us in your prayers. The comments poured in below. So awful, Corinne, you don't deserve this. Some kids just turn into monsters. Cut her off for good, she sounds toxic. Is she on drugs? This behavior is crazy. Someone even wrote. I heard she used her parents' money to move to Seattle. A laugh slipped out of me, not humor. Disbelief. The kind that punches out of your chest because reality has become so distorted, it feels like satire. I scrolled further, my jaw tightening. Not one person questioned her story. Not one person asked for proof. People love a victim, especially one who knows how to perform pain convincingly. I took screenshots, every comment, every lie, every accusation. Then I closed the app and opened my email. 2. Entire work team subject. Quick clarification. Hi everyone, if you come across personal posts about me online, please ignore them. A family dispute has escalated, and unfortunately, some individuals respond to boundaries with public fabrications. I'm fine and fully focused on work. Thank you for respecting my privacy. Jenna, I hit send without hesitation. No over-explaining, no defending myself, just facts. After lunch, I met with Lydia for a project update. When we finished, she tilted her head slightly, studying me. "I saw your email," she said gently. "I'm sorry you're going through this. If it affects your workload, tell me." "It won't," I replied. "I'm handling it." "Clearly," she said, and a small, genuine smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. "Most people would crumble under what you're dealing with. You're still delivering perfect work." Something warm nudged against my chest, validation, quiet and steady. When the day ended, I stepped outside into the drizzle. Seattle's air wrapped around me like cool fog as I walked home. My thoughts were loud, but my footsteps felt grounded. At home, I dropped my bag on the table, made soup, and sat with the steam rising into the dim kitchen. Then, because part of me needed closure, I opened my email again. There it was. A message from Evan Lawson, sent at 4:12 p.m. subject. "Final confirmation. Hi Jenna, the cosigner release is fully processed. Both accounts list you as removed, and the decision is final. Additionally, our compliance department has included your case in our internal training archive for examples of appropriate boundary support. If your family contacts the bank again, they will be referred back to legal policy. Let me know if you need anything further. Regards, Evan." I exhaled slowly, letting the words settle into place. Final, removed, protected. The three things I had never been in my family's orbit. A few minutes later, another notification flashed across my screen, this time from a different direction. A text message. "Unknown number. You're going to regret what you've done. This isn't over." I couldn't tell if it was my mother, my sister, or one of the people she'd recruited into her story. I didn't care. I blocked the number, saved the screenshot, slipped my phone into the drawer. Then I went to the window, watching the lights shimmer on Lake Union. The city felt alive, like it was breathing with me. For the first time since childhood, I wasn't bracing for the next blow. I wasn't absorbing guilt that didn't belong to me. I wasn't scrambling to fix chaos I didn't create. I whispered into the quiet apartment, "They don't get to write my story anymore." Because the truth had finally surfaced in a way even they couldn't drown. The moment you stop being someone's supply, you become their enemy. But the moment you reclaim your own life, you become free. For a few days, the storm from Boise quieted, but only on the surface. Manipulators don't disappear, they reload. I kept my routines tight and simple: morning coffee, work, evening walks. My apartment felt like a sanctuary again, a place where my thoughts weren't constantly hijacked by incoming crises. But on Thursday morning, as I stepped into the hallway to check my mail, I saw something that made my heart tap once, hard. An envelope slid halfway under my door. No name, no return address, just my first name written in blunt, heavy strokes. Inside, a single typed sheet. "You think cutting us off makes you strong? You're breaking your own family. Fix this before we make it worse." No signature, no explanation, cowardly by design. I held the page between two fingers like it was contaminated. Then I walked straight to my desk, scanned it, and dropped the file into my growing evidence folder before sealing the original inside a plastic sleeve. I wasn't spiraling, I was documenting. An hour later, I was at work reviewing project numbers when my phone buzzed. A new email. From Evan. "Jenna, we received multiple calls from your cosigners again today. Per policy, they were informed that the release cannot be reversed without your written consent. You remain fully protected. Let me know if you need support. Regards, Evan." I reread the lines slowly, letting the steadiness of his tone ground me. They tried again. And again, the policy stood between them and the life they once drained from me freely. That afternoon, Maya walked over to my cubicle holding her phone with an expression somewhere between concern and frustration. "I'm sorry," she said softly, "but you should see this." She handed me her phone, another Facebook post. But this time it wasn't from Mom, it was from Chloe. Some people pretend to be victims, but the truth eventually comes out. My sister is ruining our family and twisting the story. Pray for my mom, this stress is affecting her health. Jenna needs help. Please keep our family in your thoughts. And the comments came in fast. Your mom has such a good heart. Jenna sounds unhinged. Cut her off for your own sanity. Family shouldn't treat each other like this. I handed the phone back slowly. My pulse stayed even. My expression didn't crack. "That's a lot," Maya whispered. "It's predictable," I corrected gently. Maya hesitated, then asked, "How do you stay this calm?" I shrugged. "They've taught me what to expect." And I stopped letting their noise decide my value. She gave me a long, thoughtful look. "I'm proud of you." The words landed deeper than she knew. Later in the day, Lydia called me into her office, not for performance concerns, not for warnings, for something entirely different. "I want you to take the lead on the final Ridgeview presentation," she said. "Your work has been consistent, thoughtful, and steady. The team trusts you." There was no hidden motive in her voice, no guilt, no strings. "Thank you," I managed, the words catching in my throat. "You've earned it," she said simply. When I got home that night, the apartment was quiet except for the low hum of my refrigerator. I made dinner, lit the cedar candle I'd bought from the farmer's market, and let the warmth fill the room. My phone buzzed again. A new message from Dad. "Your mother isn't eating. She's barely sleeping. You're doing this to her. If anything happens, it's on you." Old Jenna would have panicked. Old Jenna would have apologized. Old Jenna would have driven all night to fix the situation. New Jenna? She read it once, saved the screenshot, and put the phone down. I wasn't responsible for their choices. I wasn't responsible for their reactions. I wasn't responsible for the fallout of boundaries that should have existed years ago. Around 9 p.m., there was a knock on my door. The soft kind, normal and human. I checked the camera feed. It was my neighbor, Mrs. Grant, holding a small plate of cookies. "Just wanted to check on you," she said when I opened the door. "Saw police last week. Hope everything's all right." Her kindness hit harder than the threats ever could. "I'm okay," I said. "Just dealing with family." She chuckled knowingly. "Ah, say no more." After she left, I sat on my couch and gazed out at the nightlit water. Seattle shimmered with reflections, lights dancing across the lake like tiny, breathing stars. For the first time in a long time, I felt something I couldn't ignore. The life I was building here felt real, steady, mine. The noise from Boise couldn't reach as far as it used to. Not when my world was filling with people who treated me like a person instead of a resource. But I knew my family well enough to understand one thing with certainty. They weren't done yet. Not because they loved me, because I had stopped being useful. And people who lose control of their supply don't let go quietly. By the following week, the harassment had shifted into something quieter, less explosive, more calculated. It reminded me of the way a storm lingers after the thunder stops. The sky looks calm, but the air still carries electricity. On Monday morning, when I finally turned my phone back on after a peaceful weekend, a new wave of messages appeared instantly. "Mom, you're being dramatic. This is not how families behave." "Dad, we need to talk before this gets worse." "Chloe, you're ruining Mom's health. I hope you're happy." I didn't reply. My silence was no longer hesitation, it was strategy. At work, I stayed focused. My world had narrowed down into manageable pieces, data, deadlines, presentations. Life outside those pieces felt like background noise. Near lunchtime, Lydia found me in the hallway. "Got a minute?" she asked. We stepped into a small meeting room. Sunlight filtered through the frosted glass, giving the space a soft glow. "I just wanted to tell you," she said. "The leadership team reviewed the last set of projections you submitted. They were impressed, really impressed." I felt a small, unfamiliar warmth in my chest. "You'll be handling the Ridgeview client meeting next month," she added. "I trust you with it. Not because I fixed someone's mess. Not because I carried someone's burden. Not because guilt pushed me to overperform. Because of my work. My skill, my steadiness. When I returned to my desk, Maya was waiting. "You okay today?" she asked gently. "I'm getting there," I said. She nodded. "Good, you deserve peace." After work, I grabbed groceries and headed home. The evening air was cool and crisp, carrying the scent of rain-soaked pavement. My apartment welcomed me with its familiar quiet. But as I set my keys down, there was a knock at my door. Soft, respectful, not a repeat of last time. I checked the security feed. A delivery driver stood there, holding a medium-sized package. I wasn't expecting anything. After he left, I carried the box inside. It was light. No return address except a Boise shipping center. My pulse flickered. I opened it slowly. Inside was a framed picture, my college graduation photo, the one I'd posted online months ago. I had taken that picture standing in front of the university sign, smiling in my cap and gown. But someone had printed it out and scribbled across the glass in thick, red marker, "You're still nothing without us." The words cut deeper than the threats, deeper than the shouting, deeper than the online lies. Because this wasn't just cruelty. It was possession, a reminder of who they believed I was and who they wanted me to remain. But they were wrong, completely wrong. I wrapped the frame in a towel, set it aside, then took photos of it from every angle. After documenting it, I placed the evidence into a new folder on my laptop labeled Harassment Physical Items. Then I grabbed my keys and walked straight to the police station 2 blocks away. The officer at the desk recognized me from my earlier report. "Back again?" "Yes," I said, placing the frame on the counter. It escalated. He studied the red writing and exhaled slowly. "This is intimidation," he said. "We'll add it to the report. You did the right thing coming in." The words settled over me like a reassurance I didn't realize I needed. When I walked back out into the chilly evening air, something inside me felt stronger, not because things were getting easier, but because I wasn't collapsing under them. On the way home, my phone buzzed. A new number. "No name. This isn't over. You forced our hand. Answer us before we take this further." I blocked it. Screenshot saved. Back in my apartment, I made dinner, lit the lavender candle from the market, and let the room warm around me. The Seattle skyline glowed through my window, steady lights reflecting off the water. As I ate, my phone buzzed again. A message from Dad. "You've done enough damage. Stop this before it destroys our family completely." I typed nothing. I said nothing. I simply locked the screen and set the phone aside. Because I understood something now that I hadn't before. I wasn't destroying the family. I was refusing to be destroyed by it. And refusing to play their role anymore made me the villain in a story they wrote. But I was finally writing my own chapters. I leaned back on the couch, watching the candle flame flicker gently. The storm was still there, yes, but I wasn't standing in the middle of it anymore. I was watching it from a distance, finally sheltered, finally grounded, finally free. The final unraveling didn't come with shouting, or banging on doors, or frantic calls in the middle of the night. It came quietly, like the last thread snapping on something that had been stretched too far for too long. 2 weeks passed with a strange, steady calm. My family's messages slowed. The block number attempts stopped. Even Facebook grew quiet, not because everything was resolved, but because consequences finally had weight. I filled my days with work. The Ridgeview project moved forward, and my team looked to me for direction. Every time Lydia nodded in approval or Maya joked about my calm boss energy, I felt myself settling into a life that didn't depend on anyone's chaos. My evenings grew peaceful too. I cooked more. I walked more. I slept deeply without waking to dread. My apartment, once a place I collapsed into, became a home I grew into. But it wasn't until one crisp Saturday morning that the story shifted for good. I was making tea when a thick envelope slid through the mail slot and landed at my feet. No handwriting, no threats, just my name printed neatly. For a moment, I hesitated. Then I picked it up and opened it. Inside was an official document from Seattle Police. Harassment warning. Served to Karen Brooks and Chloe Brooks, May 12th. The officer had moved forward with the warning after reviewing the package, messages, and reports I'd submitted. It was formal. It was real. It was protection. My breath left my body in a slow, steady exhale. Not fear. Not relief. Something else. Closure. In the afternoon, I walked down to the waterfront and sat on a bench overlooking Lake Union. The water rippled under soft sunlight. Ferries hummed in the distance. People jogged, walked dogs, sipped iced lattes, life happening without drama. My phone vibrated once. A single text. From a number saved long ago but never used until now. Chloe. Her message was short. No dramatics. No accusations. No guilt. "Jenna, I'm sorry. For the cake, for the posts, for everything. You didn't deserve any of it." I stared at the words for a while. There were no excuses, no half-truths, just acknowledgement. I typed nothing in return. Not out of spite, but out of understanding. Forgiveness and reconnection aren't the same thing. One is healing. The other is reopening a door that might not lead anywhere better. I tucked the phone back into my pocket. Later that evening, as the sky turned a soft lavender gray, I returned home to find another envelope waiting, this one smaller. Inside was a handwritten note, not from Chloe, from my father. Jenna, things got out of hand. Your mother is struggling. I didn't handle it well either. I wish I could go back and change things. I hope you're doing all right. Dad, there was a time when that note would have crushed me. A time when I would have rushed to reply, rushed to fix, rushed to soothe. Now, it felt like a gentle echo of a door that had been closed long before either of us realized it. I folded both letters and placed them in a drawer, not to revisit, not to obsess over, but because I wanted to mark the moment something shifted. They finally had to face themselves. My phone buzzed one last time that night. An email. From Evan. Hi Jenna, compliance has finalized the archive. Your release documentation is now part of our internal training on cosigner protection and financial boundaries. Just checking in, hope you're doing well. I smiled, small and genuine. Months ago, I felt trapped under their expectations. Months ago, I thought love meant sacrificing until you disappeared. Months ago, I believed keeping the peace was worth losing myself. Now, I looked around my quiet apartment, the living room bathed in warm light, the lavender candle flickering softly, the Seattle skyline glowing through my window like a promise. Now, peace wasn't something I chased. It was something I created, something I protected, something I chose. I stepped onto the balcony, the cool air brushing against my skin. The city breathed below me, alive, steady, full of possibilities I'd never let myself imagine before. And in that moment, I whispered to the night, I finally belong to myself. If you've ever had to end the chapter you were born into to start the life you deserve, you're not alone.